Most United churches follow a lectionary. And sometimes you look at the lectionary readings and you think, oh my goodness, how did they decide on that? But this week, it was, I guess, two particular pieces of the lectionary that partnered very well. You see, you heard in our scripture, our gospel reading, that Nicodemus was a Pharisee. He was well established. He was well respected in his community. But he comes at night. Isn't that an interesting detail? Kind of sneaks in at night. That's another conversation for another day. It's a really interesting detail, though. And he questions Jesus. What is this born again thing that Jesus talks about? And Jesus tells him it's a process. This being born again, it's a process. It's a journey of faith that leads us to places we have not been before. A journey that calls us like Abram away from our old and familiar lives into a new and great adventure where we become part of a great nation destined to dwell in this great land. It is an event, a process that has a beginning, a place in which we ultimately say yes or no to Jesus, and an end, one which we do not know, where we inherit the kingdom that has been prepared for us. But in the middle, when you have said yes, there are some things that you can do and experience that none other experience. You can feel peace. You can feel confident. You can be humble without being prideful about it. You can love those whom you do not like. You can bless those who curse you. You can be free, but yet give that freedom up to serve others and to help others in their need. You can do this because God is born in you and God is with you to help you. The journey of faith, the kind of journey that Abram made and which tradition tells us that Nicodemus also made, was a tremendous journey. A journey that we should be glad that we are on, a journey that we need to be on. It is a journey that gives us new life, which causes us to be reborn. And it begins and it ends when we say, I believe and I will follow. As those who follow Jesus, each of us constantly are on a daily basis given many, many choices. Will I do this? Or will I do that? How will I use the time and the resources that I have been given? And I think that this is a discipleship question. Actually, I think it is the discipleship question, and it's about faithfulness. As people of faith, we believe that all we have, from unmatched socks to our very lives, comes from God. God generously shares and gives to us because God loves us. And not just us, but everyone, every living being on this planet, and even the planet itself and beyond the planet. That's how expansive God's love is. It's up to each of us then to decide how we are going to use whatever it is that God has given us. Not a bad deal, right? However, God knows us pretty well. So God has given us some guidelines, some assistance, and yes, even some rules to help us make good decisions about how we are going to use all this that God has given us. It's not that God doesn't trust us, but let's just say our track record as human beings for using what God has given us hasn't been exactly stellar. There's an example of this in one of the Bible readings we heard today. Now the Lord said to Abram, Go from your country and your kindred and your father's house to the land that I will show you. I will make of you a great nation, and I will bless you and make your name great. Not a bad deal for Abram, I figure. Go where God takes you and you will get it all. You will become a great nation, blessed by God. Money? Yep. Power? Uh-huh. Possessions? You bet. Descendants? Yep. He gets it all. There's only one little caveat, so that you will be a blessing. It's not so much a hitch or a condition, but God gives Abram a guideline as to how to use all this blessing that God is going to give to Abram. Use it to bless others. So as spiritual descendants of Abram, whose name God later changes to Abraham, we too have been blessed in order to be a blessing to others. Which brings us to this week's Lenten practice. The practice of blessing. And because we are also talking about discipleship, the practice of using what we have been given to be a blessing to someone else. Blessed to be a blessing. Now, blessing is one of those words that often gets used, but doesn't often get defined. So let's just check with Google, see what Google has to say. Blessing, a beneficial thing for which one is grateful. A person's sanction or support. So really, there's no surprises there, I hope. Being blessed is a good thing. A blessing can be both physical and non-physical. I have an amazing spiritual director who offers me a blessing as I leave every time we meet. I carry that blessing with me everywhere I go and go back as often as it is possible. And I go back to that blessing as I move through my days and weeks in between our visits. As for a physical blessing, I'm blessed to be able to have the abundance of food that I enjoy every day. I am so blessed for the variety and the quality and quantity of food that I enjoy. But now I'm going to give you a minute to bring to mind some time when someone blessed you, either physically or in some other ways. Should I just pause for a minute? This is where you get to participate. How did it feel to be blessed? You can share your answers with us or with your neighbor. How did it feel to be blessed? Is there something that after being blessed that you wanted to do in return? Now, let's just flip it around a little bit. I'm going to give you another moment to recall a time when you were a blessing, when you were a blessing to someone else. Maybe you gave them something. Maybe you did something for them. Maybe you said something for which they are very grateful, even if they didn't come out and say it. When were you a blessing to someone else? How did that feel? How did that feel to be a blessing to someone? And what did doing that blessing make you want to do? Being a part of this wonderful congregation gives you many opportunities to be a blessing to others. So often we think about this Lenten time as one of self-deprivation, or as Don Collette writes, Lent is not a time to confess our peccadillos or to give up things. That's how we used to do it. Lent is a time to recommit ourselves, to get clearer in our minds about our purpose here on earth. And if we think we don't have a purpose, we need to think again and to discover it or rediscover it, lest other powers be enlisted to defeat us. I have been following your Trinity United Church Facebook account, and I see where Julie has offered many suggestions as to how to be a blessing. Those included paying it forward, buying someone behind you in line their coffee, or taking treats to an animal shelter. I know you have a big shelter here in Portage. To write letters to a woman's shelter. I guess having to go into a woman's shelter is one of the most isolating feelings. And to have someone say, we're thinking about you. We're thinking about you. We're praying for you would be a life-giving option. Or how about to write someone and thank them for how they have modeled their faith. To call someone in the church that you don't normally talk to or sit with, or just call someone to tell them that you are thinking about them today. The other ones I noticed on your Facebook account, Julie said, to notice the sunrise. I'm an early riser, so I see a lot of those. And a sunset. Haven't there been some spectacular ones? And to give thanks. We also have the opportunity to be a blessing to people we may never meet through the mission and service of the United Church. When you give to mission and service, you are a blessing to thousands, I think maybe even sometimes millions of people across Canada. A blessing that in some times and in some cases actually saves lives. Community ministries serving God's people in areas such as housing and food security, employment training, mental health treatment, advocacy and pastoral care, chaplaincies in universities, hospitals, and communities, grants for embracing the Spirit, the Healing Fund, Justice and Reconciliation, and Vision Fund projects, ecumenical and social movement organizations, theological schools. I know the one I went to was well supported through mission and service. Continuing education and training for vocation of ministry and for lay leaders, for pastoral charges that are small and struggling, serving God's people through worship and pastoral care, education and mission. When you give to mission and service, you are a blessing to thousands, maybe even millions of people around the world directly and through global partners in countries which change lives and save lives. So that's what we're going to think about and work on for our Lenten practice. Using what we have been given to be a blessing for someone else. We're going to have some fun this week. So here's what I want you to try. Now, Jesus warns us not to be showy or to draw attention to ourselves when we are generous and use what we have to bless someone else. From Matthew, we hear, beware of practicing your piety before others in order to be seen by them, for then you have no reward from God. So wherever you give alms, do not sound a trumpet before you so that they may be praised by others. Truly, I tell you, they have received their reward. But when you give alms, do not let your left hand know what your right hand is doing, so that your alms may be done in secret. And God sees in secret and will reward you. So this week, I want you to go into blessing stealth mode. I want you to be creative. And at least once a day this week, Use something that you have been given, something you have been blessed with, to secretly bless someone else. Don't let them know it was you. It might be a family member. It might be a coworker. It could be a total stranger. That part is entirely up to you. It doesn't matter who. And at least once a day this week, use something that you have been given, something that you have been blessed with, to secretly bless someone else. I want you to think about this Lenten practice and how it worked for you and how it helped or didn't open you up to God as you have made space in your life to actively live out the way of Jesus Christ. So move into blessing stealth mode. It'll be wonderful. Thanks be to God. We're going to